In December, a little edit crossed my algorithm. It's Lucy Dacus's Hot and Heavy paired with footage of these two hockey players yearning for each other. They're sending texts, they're winking over water bottles, they're touching each other's backs. To me, it just looked like a little romance show. I didn't think it would relate to the larger topic of this channel. I didn't know the final episode would be called The Cottage, that in the background there would be this overwhelming idea of home, how the people you love inspire where you live, how the desire to make people comfortable and safe changes how you relate to your space. I just thought, let's watch the popular hockey show. For those of you who don't know, this is Heated Rivalry. It was based on the romance book series by Rachel Reed called Game Changers. The second book focuses on our protagonists Ilya Rozanov and Shane Hollander. If you watch the show, I know it feels like I mispronounced Shane's name, so I'll let the expert demonstrate how it's supposed to be said.
Hollander.
If you heard that accent, Ilya is from Russia. He is in the NHL. Sorry, the MLH. He plays for the Boston Bruins. Sorry, that's the Boston Raiders. And his fellow rookie opponent is Shane, a Canadian who plays for the Montreal Canadiens. Sorry, that's the Montreal Metros. Now, even though all the team names are fake, you don't really care if you're watching because this show does a good job working with what it's got. And what it's got is two very good actors and a tight but well-used budget. This show is Canadian, and although we don't know the exact final budget, the amount provided for the 6 episodes by the Canada Media Fund was $3.1 million. Canadian dollars, like 2.2 million US. That is less than 1% of the budget used for the Stranger Things final season. This feels like the right time to say, I love Canada so much. I like your movies, clearly I like your TV, and I have had a long obsession with the Canadian writer Morley Callaghan. He has written some of the best short stories I've ever read. He was the only normal, well-adjusted guy in Paris in the 1920s during the whole cool writer scene, and there's part of me that thinks that's because he was Canadian. He beat our famous overly masculine brute of a writer Ernest Hemingway in a boxing match, and didn't really even care that much about winning and was more upset that it hurt their relationship. Okay, enough about two male competitors with homoerotic energy. Let's get back to Heated Rivalry. What starts out as a physical relationship between Ilya and Shane is kind of building to something more. As this relationship continues from casual hookups in hotels in random cities, they slowly, and I mean slowly, this show is set over years and years, so they slowly show each other the places they live. And it turns out the places that they live work directly against my own lived experience seeing a hockey player dorm room, where all the decor was pee-filled Gatorade bottles. We see Shane's apartment first, or should I call him Mr. Businessman, Mr. Landlord. The place looks sleek, open floor plan. We honestly don't see much of it. In the shot, we see a floating staircase, the edge of the living room, an entire dining room table, and the edge of the kitchen island. When they get to the bed, he has 9 pillows on it. It receives scrutiny from Ilya.
Did your mom buy all these pillows?
No. I hired someone.
Here Shane admits that he has an interior designer, and they've clearly mostly been focused on the pillow situation. This apartment tour is happening in fall 2013. In fall of 2016, we get to go to Ilya's house, which is in Boston, but it's actually a house in Dundas, Ontario, about an hour away from Toronto. In the show, we see what Shane and Ilya have in common. Either Ilya saw Shane's apartment style and liked it, or they have this ultra sleek modern style in common. Because I will just say, it would be mighty hard to find a build like this within 30 minutes of Boston in 2016. I found this house sold by former Celtic Drew Holiday that kind of has that same energy in Newton, Mass, and it was built in 2024. But looking further into Ilya's house, I was excited to see just how much I could find on it, because this house is for sale. It was built by the design studio SMPL, and it's being sold for 6.5 million Canadian dollars, 4.7 million US. And everywhere this place is written about, it mentions being inspired by the work of Mies Van Der Rohe. We've talked about him before in the Brutalist video that I did, and I'd like everyone to note that I have figured out the pronunciation since then. Now, when I looked to this house, I didn't see that inspiration at first. I kind of had to squint my eyes to see the Van Der Rohe connection. And then after I'd squinted, it was actually kind of easy to see because the dark parts of the house kind of blend into the background, and all you can kind of see is this white band. Mies Van Der Rohe only built 3 houses in the United States. The majority of his work was reserved for office buildings, schools, apartments, but his most famous of the 3 houses he built was the Farnsworth House in 1951. The National Trust for Historic Places owns it now. And here you can see it. the long single floor with floor-to-ceiling windows in the middle of a meadow. Now in the photos, it looks very clean and beautiful, but the owner of the house had complaints. As part of a fairly vicious debate about this style for houses, Edith Farnsworth said, "The truth is that in this house with its 4 walls of glass, I feel like a prowling animal, always on alert. I am always restless. Even in the evening, I feel like a sentinel on guard day and night." Now, Farnsworth House is a modernist building, and Ilya might say that Mies Van Der Rohe was Mr. International, because the international style was the category most of his American work fits in. But let's remember, I had to squint to see the similarities between Ilya's house and the Farnsworth House. And despite the add-ons in the 2022 built house, the other major difference is the size. Ilya's house is 8,019 interior square feet. That's 745 square meters for my Mr. International audience, where Farnsworth House is 1,586 square feet, roughly 150 square meters. But even without a comparison, you can kind of tell that this place is really big when Shane and Ilya walk in the hallway. The place looks gigantic. You know it's big when the shot can have you in the middle and so much house around it. Now, also in the shot is this fireplace. And when I was watching the promotional trailer for the house, I found out that this fireplace is a freaking star. The camera loves it. If you're wondering what I mean by a promotional trailer, I mean, this house has an edit. Just like an edit to a Lucy Dacus song got me to watch the show, they are hoping an edit of this house is going to get someone to buy it. This is when I know my sense of humor is messed up, because this, to me, is the pinnacle of comedy. A woodwind instrument as we zoom into a linear gas fireplace, a voice singing "Foreclosure" in the background. It's too perfect. But sometimes laughing is how you learn. This 3-minute trailer taught me that the gym scene, when they race and touch hands, was filmed in this house's gym. And then through the power of a motion-sickening zoom, we're back at the fireplace. This fireplace is giving me Raven Baxter-esque flashbacks to a house with a long fireplace that I have seen before. And usually when I get those flashbacks, it's because something is reminding me of one of the 154 open-door house tours, which I watched years ago. The AD house tour I'm thinking of doesn't just have this fireplace in common. It's also in Canada. It's also owned by a hockey player. It's also very rectangular.
Hey, AD.
This hockey player plays for the Edmonton Oilers. That's the real-life name, not the fictional gay hockey show name. He is Connor McDavid, and him and his then-girlfriend, now wife, gave us a tour of their whole place. And they don't just have one of those little linear gas fireplaces. They have 2. One in the living room and one in another living room, but upstairs. It just doesn't hit the same without... Yes, that's perfect. But this whole tour had me seeing a lot of commonalities between Ilya's house and the real AD featured one. The waterfall kitchen island, the exact same sink, and of course, couches that could fit approximately a baker's dozen of hockey players. Although I kind of want to say that this is just the hockey way of architecture. I want to imagine that there's this beautiful little through line that connects Connor McDavid and Connor Story, who plays Ilya Rozanov. But the true connection might be that these are the only 2 luxury Canadian houses I've ever been given a house tour of. When I check back through my spreadsheet of Architectural Digest houses, of all the places AD could go in Canada, the only place they've ever been is this house in Edmonton. But it turns out I'm not the only person in this story guilty of watching a house tour a little too closely. That's actually part of Heated Rivalry too. Ilya is watching Shane's ESPN house tour segment. The narrator calls it his fortress of solitude, and Shane says to camera with the cottage in the background, "It's my favorite place on earth."
And my parents' cottage, the one I grew up spending my summers at, is 10 minutes away.
And when Shane invites Ilya to the cottage in a later episode, I did have to ask, how are we defining cottage these days? My mental impression of a cottage is something like this. Maybe like this. If I'm feeling very Victorian, something like this. I really had quite the speech on the understatement of wealth coming from the word cottage. But when I did further digging, this is what people in Canada call summer homes. The actual area where this house is located in real life is around the lakes outside of Toronto. And it's called cottage country because of how many summer homes are located there. The architect who built this house, when you go to his website, of the projects they show, 16 of 35 of them are called cottages. Well, be it a cottage or a fortress of solitude, Shane and Ilya spend episode 6 there, and Shane gives him a tour, and a more interesting and inviting tour than whatever was featured on ESPN. It's filmed with a Steadicam and has that same wide cinematic lens as the rest of the show that lets us see the characters in focus, but still take in more of the space as we walk in the entryway. We can see the beautiful windows with the trees and the lake. It's here that Ilya gives up the fact that he's seen the house tour. He's been paying attention to Shane.
I didn't buy this. I had it built.
Oh, I know.
As the camera, we walk through the kitchen, see the kitchen island, and then come down a few stairs to the sunken living room. They go on to kiss on the couch while we watch from above, but it's pretty clear they are not comfortable with each other yet. They haven't seen each other in a while, and this is a big step in their relationship. It's been 10 years of them treating this like a hookup, acting like they don't take this relationship that seriously. But now they've both taken the big step to admitting that they do and actually spending time together. And that nervousness, that hesitance, leads to a lot of starts and stops in their intimacy. So when they are finally in Shane's bedroom, surrounded by glass windows and trees, Shane pauses one more time to close the blinds, with a remote, of course. And it's here that Ilya stops him and just says no.
No.
Now, I'm not the best at metaphors, but that's a pretty clear one. They aren't hiding anymore. Sure, their relationship isn't public, but they will no longer be hiding who they are and their feelings in front of each other, in front of an audience of none. And the blinds being open, seeing through the glass and the woods beyond are the best way to telegraph that to us, the viewers. I do think it's interesting that all of these houses that we've seen in the show are very contemporary. They all have walls of glass. All of them seem to be built in the past 5 years. I'm not going to hold them on a technicality that these houses wouldn't be built when the show is set, because I like the show too much to be rude about stuff like that. But the entire show has a defined style that doesn't involve stuff or clutter. It's spare and simple. To me, that's intentional too, because this show isn't about anything beyond our two main characters falling in love. You're not supposed to think about the cottage beyond it being a beautiful place for their relationship to blossom. Any stuff that is a distraction from that story is deemed a waste of time. We don't spend time on the hockey rink unless it drives the plot. We don't spend time in a hotel unless they're getting together. The show doesn't even bother showing us entire years unless they hang out during them. Every part of this show is efficient. The 6 episodes were filmed in 37 days. Everything was filmed out of order, depending on what location was available when. So presumably they filmed that gym scene around the same time as Shane got his tuna melt. And all of these houses seem to be real houses, not sets. But houses that have the bare minimum of furniture and art. Picking big contemporary homes where the camera can fit at any angle, where there's plenty of room for tracking shots. It's smart and it's efficient. And it's how shows like this can get made when they don't have $50 million and every executive on their side. But there is one older house in this show. And older in this case is somewhat relative. When Shane and Ilya go to Shane's parents' house for the first time, we get to see a normal-ish house. It's got pictures on the walls and trophies on the shelves. The furniture isn't one specific style or time period, it's a mishmash. When they're sitting at the table, this door behind them looks like a door you buy at Lowe's, and it would not require a custom order. We see the house a little from the outside where it looks maybe like a ranch with a brick detailed facade. I can't see anything more about it. I couldn't even find the address, but I'd guess it's from the 1960s based on the stonewall veneer inside and the doorbell. But I think it makes sense that we end on this house, a normal house. After all the modern, sleek, sparse homes, we finally get to a lived-in one. Because this relationship has officially become a full-blown relationship. They've removed all their protective armor, their interior designers. Shane lets Ilya into his most personal space where he would never allow an ESPN house tour, and it all went okay. And that's one of the best parts about this show, is it all works out. A romance where rivals become lovers, and you just want what's best for them, and they get what's best for them. You just can't help but smile. Thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you to my friend Zoe for sending me quotes from the book and double checking my memory. My Patreon video this month will probably be me jamming out to that house edit and also talking more about the fight between Edith Farnsworth and Mies Van Der Rohe over the house that he built. If you want to see more on Mies Van Der Rohe, check out my video on The Brutalist. If you want to just have fun watching movies with me, last video I challenged myself to guess the house styles from the movies you all submitted, and it was silly and fun. Okay, Bye.